Hi everyone! Welcome to our presentation on alcoholism through the lens of evolutionary medicine by Seja, Victoria, Kelly, and myself, Eve. Unfortunately, as denoted by the GIF there in the left-hand corner, alcoholism is often seen as a punchline, but in truth it is a debilitating addiction and illness. Alright, so let's jump right in by addressing what alcoholism actually is. The DSM-5 defines it as, quote, a maladaptive pattern of substance use leading to clinically significant impairment or distress as manifested by two or more of the following criteria within a 12-month period. Persistence of alcohol abuse, feeling you can't stop, large intake of alcohol, going out of your way to obtain it, feeling cravings for it, missing important social or work obligations, drinking in risky situations such as drink driving, operating heavy machinery, drinking in the workplace, minding kids, developing a high tolerance, or experiencing withdrawal when trying to quit or reduce drinking. Now, over 14.5 million people in the US in 2019 have alcohol use disorders, and over 95,000 Americans die of alcohol-related deaths annually. Now, that encompasses car accidents, liver failure, hitting your head whenever you're drunk, passing out. There's an array of risks when it comes to drinking alcohol or abusing alcohol. It is the third leading cause of preventable death in the US, and 1 in 3 liver transplants are due to alcohol-related disease. Furthermore, alcoholism can affect people of all ages, socioeconomic brackets, ethnicities, and gender. Fruits and vegetables all have varying degrees of alcohol content, with ripe ones containing about 1% and actively rotting up to 7%. Our primate ancestors didn't have a corner store and had to forage for food that wasn't always easy to come by. By becoming attracted to the scent of alcohol, we were enabled to suss out fruits and vegetables for consumption, beneficial to our survival. This was also beneficial to plants, as through our consumption the seeds were dispersed. Alcohol also encouraged us to eat by whetting the appetite, known as the aperitif effect. For example, think how you go to town on a pizza after a few drinks. Me too. Now, back in those days, our primitive ancestors didn't get hammered like we do on a night out because fruits contained low amounts of alcohol. However, today the world is a giant brewery by comparison. Think how it was with sugar and caloric intake then versus now, and the effects of that, such as obesity. Alcohol overindulgence echoes the thrifty gene hypothesis.
How does alcoholism develop? The proximate explanations. Let's start by defining ethanol and then let's talk about its effects on the brain. Ethanol is the chemical compound contained in alcoholic beverages, which works by lowering the activity of inhibitory and excitatory neurotransmitter pathways. Inhibitory neurotransmitters reduce neurons' firing action potential, and a major inhibitory neurotransmitter which controls brain activity is called gamma-aminobutyric acid. Excitatory neurotransmitters do the opposite. They increase neurons' firing action potential, and an example of this would be glutamate. Now let's see how this connects in the brain. Ethanol attaches to gamma-aminobutyric acid, which causes a lower brain activity and a more powerful response. It also activates opioid receptors, leading to a release of endorphins, which are hormones that release stress and increase well-being. Ethanol also causes opioids to attach to receptors on dopaminergic neurons, releasing dopamine, a feel-good hormone, and serotonin, a hormone which is responsible for stabilizing mood and happiness. Finally, ethanol also blocks glutamate, which causes a reduced neuron firing potential. As stated previously, different parts of the brain are stimulated by alcohol. These are just some ways in which alcohol can affect the brain and why so many people become dependent on it. After a period of drinking, the brain begins to rely on alcohol to produce certain chemicals such as endorphins and serotonin. Therefore, the effects of these hormones are responsible for making drinkers crave another drink, alcohol dependence, and withdrawal symptoms. But there's also another factor that adds to this, and it is alcohol tolerance. Although alcohol tolerance depends on each individual person themselves, repeated use of alcohol causes a decreased alcohol response. This makes people consume more alcohol over time to feel the same effects of alcohol as originally. Why does alcoholism develop? The ultimate explanations. There's many factors that can cause a person to turn to alcohol. These factors include social, environmental, biological, and psychological factors. Social factors influence alcoholism through culture, religion, family, and work. Environmental factors do the same through advertisements and easy accessibility. It was actually proven that people who live closer to liquor stores, bars, etc., are more likely to participate in drinking, which made me realize that choosing an area to live in might be more important than I thought. Biological factors. Some are genetically more susceptible. They're programmed to crave the feelings of pleasure that alcohol brings them more than others, causing the brain to repeat this behavior. Psychological factors such as stress, anxiety, depression, and mental health conditions are also at play here. Although these are not all the possible factors that can cause alcoholism, these are the most common ones.
Alcohol consumption and overuse have negative consequences on people's health, being one of the main contributing factors to the development of cancer and other health related conditions. Multiple studies have been done in regards to alcohol use and its effects on people's health, and many concluded that alcohol directly causes such diseases or is related to developing them. Besides developing cancer, alcohol consumption is highly related to the development of other types of diseases. To name a few, liver disease, hypertension, and diabetes. Liver disease. Alcohol is associated with various liver diseases and most strongly related to fatty liver, alcoholic hepatitis, and cirrhosis. The association between the risk of liver cirrhosis and alcohol consumption has long been recognized. The main biological mechanisms contributing to this liver damage likely involves the breakdown of ethanol in the liver through oxidative and non-oxidative pathways that result in the production of free radicals, which can damage the liver cells. It is also suggested that low to moderate consumption of alcohol may have a positive impact or can even prevent some diseases. But there is a thin line between the positive impact and the developing a chronic disease. It all depends on the amount of alcohol that is consumed by the individuals. For instance, low to moderate alcohol consumption may prevent developing type 2 diabetes. Because the development of insulin resistance is key in the pathogenesis of type 2 diabetes, it is thought that moderate alcohol consumption protects against the disorder by increasing insulin sensitivity. Thus, the effects of alcohol consumption on the risk of diabetes are dose dependent. In observational studies, of large amounts of alcohol has been related to an increased risk of type 2 diabetes because higher consumption levels may increase body weight, concentrate of certain fats in the blood, and increase blood pressure.
The previous slides have helped us understand why alcoholism is considered a chronic disease. Now we'll move forward in talking about how to treat this chronic disease, and we'll start with a bit of history on how it became known as a chronic disease. Early documents declaring substance abuse as a disease date back to the 1700s. The rise of drug use in the 60s led to a more serious perspective of the harmful side effects being analyzed closely by physicians. In 2011, it was declared that addiction is a primary chronic disease of brain reward, motivation, memory, and related circuitry. Dysfunction in these circuits leads to characteristic biological, psychological, social, and spiritual manifestations. Popular treatments known to assist the rehabilitation process are programs like Alcoholics Anonymous, which traces its roots back to New York City, the Medical Society of Alcoholism in 1954. The 12 foundational steps are displayed here and give examples of mental and spiritual relief to assist in no longer consuming alcohol. However, though group therapy and individual therapy walk patients through how to make changes in their environment, the neurochemistry that becomes involved, such as genetic predisposition to alcohol use, can make requirements to successfully treat alcoholism more challenging. Additionally, the highest incidence of addiction is between ages 15 and 21. The still maturing brains of adolescents are particularly susceptible to substance use disorder because the adolescent brain is learning patterns that persist into adulthood. If the disruptive patterns laid down by substance misuse during adolescence become dominant, the adult brain becomes wired into them. The adult then finds it difficult, if not impossible, to respond appropriately to emotional, cognitive, and social environmental cues. After many medical movements prove an increased awareness towards the harmful effects of alcohol use, the Drug Abuse Treatment Act of 2000 was passed. This act authorized use of Schedule III drugs such as Subutex and Subuxone into the treatment of narcotic addictions by qualified physicians in a medical setting. And our discussion questions for today are 1. Is alcoholism a result of nature or nurture? 2. Are there evolutionary benefits for the brain to be susceptible to addictive properties? And 3. Why is alcoholism more disruptive if it occurs in earlier stages of development?
Thank you all for listening. We hope this was informative to you all, and we'd like to remind you, if anyone here is affected by the topic at hand, you can contact Clear Life Recovery or Alcoholics Anonymous, which both of those offer support and information for treatment programs. Remember, you're not alone and you can do this.